Raising teens alone can be brutal. It becomes easier when you are co-parenting with the universe. Welcome to Co-Parenting with the Universe. This is Muriel Felous, your host, and I hope you are experiencing a beautiful summer. Maybe your kids are back at school. Here, it's not the case yet, so I still have some relaxing times. Today, I have a guest that I'm excited to bring to you because we're going to be able to clarify some myths about hypnotherapy. My guest is Mark Stubbles, and he's a hypnotherapist specialized in anxiety. And I will ask him to, I'm sure I will have many, many questions. Hi, Mark. How are you today?
Hello, Muriel. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. I'm terrific. I'm excited about our upcoming conversation. First of all, I would love if you could tell our audience how you got to do what you're doing today, what brought you to becoming an hypnotherapist and specializing in anxiety.
Oh, that's a really long story. So where to begin? So I grew up with a pretty dysfunctional family in quite a dysfunctional environment. I always had issues with anxiety. I always had issues with confidence. I had issues with relationships. I just generally had lots of issues. And I got married very young, when I was 21. And we were married for 7 years. We had a very I suppose it was quite an explosive relationship, very codependent. Certainly, I was very codependent. She was probably more saner than me. She sort of held me together. And then we got divorced, and the divorce was horrendous. And it lasted for about 5 years. She wanted to leave the country with my daughter, and that led to a very long custody battle, which cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I ended up living with my grandparents, who both became very well, my grandfather developed dementia, and so I ended up kind of caring for them. I was in a relationship which was also pretty dysfunctional, and being kind of there with my grandparents, trying to care for my grandparents, and seeing the way the family behaved, I kind of realized that this is where all my issues came from.
Yeah. That's aren't we all getting our issues, the source of our issues in our family?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty, a lot of times it's like that.
Absolutely. And a child internalizes that, and they think it means there's something wrong with them. Society sort of blames us or shames us out of blaming our parents for our problems. Certainly I don't blame anyone for my problems. Everyone's doing the best they can.
Exactly.
With what they have. It's generational trauma. And I was I had a lot of toxic shame projected onto me by these people in my family.
Yeah, but like you said, they can only do what they know, and thank God we're progressing in psychology, and we know more and more. So we are trying not to make the same mistakes today.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
When did you discover hypnosis? How did you come across hypnosis?
About 7 years ago. So as I say, I reached a point in my life where I started to question, why do I keep getting into these kind of relationships? Why do I have these issues? And I started looking for solutions, looking for ways to deal with my anxiety. I think, my anxiety, like I said, I was very codependent. I kind of needed a relationship, maybe needed someone to kind of validate me, to
Yes.
make me feel some kind of self-worth, maybe. So yeah, I started, looking at that. And then, as I say, the family showed me the answer. Well, showed me the cause of my issues.
Yeah, we surely can. The more we learn, I know for myself, the more I can see the patterns and the ones I actually started reproducing before I decided to really work on myself as well. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, what we don't heal, we either repeat, by new people to enact it on us, or we enact it on others.
And so, did you come across hypnotherapy for yourself? Is that how you realize the value of that technique, that tool? Or how did you decide that it was something you really wanted to learn and to start using to help people?
It is such a long story that it would take me ages to explain it. But yeah, basically, I started listening to hypnosis recordings. I started looking on YouTube for hypnosis recordings. Also did some EFT tapping. And then I started I was very kind of depressed. I mean, I used to work online. I used to do online marketing, SEO. I suppose I kind of, I don't know if you'd call it a spiritual experience, or derealization, or psychosis because of depression. I just kind of reached the conclusion that, nothing's real.
But it's so true. It is.
Yeah.
We're creating reality with our thoughts and our perception. It's very true.
Absolutely. And, especially working online with websites and, doing like coding and stuff, you realize that they're just numbers and strings of code is, making that stuff up. So it's
Did you feel like in the Matrix?
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And people who kind of work in IT and work in software seem to reach that kind of conclusion. I know I've been on a lot of hypnosis training courses. And there's always people there that used to be, you know, software engineers and things. So
Oh, I never realized that. I never actually thought about it because I didn't evolve in that world. So it didn't cross my mind. Wow, how interesting.
yeah. So yeah, so I kind of struggling. I was, like I say, I was depressed. I didn't know, you know, what I wanted to do. But I knew I didn't want to keep doing what I was doing. So I listened to a hypnosis recording and I decided that hypnosis is what I was going to do. And yeah, that was how it all started. And then, yeah, I did several hypnosis courses. It wasn't, I mean, hypnosis helps, and your mind can't tell the difference between a real or an imagined event. So just by imagining yourself as being more confident, you know, you can start to create new neural pathways in the brain and start behaving more confidently. You can also use hypnosis to, you know, release trauma. Certainly, as I became a lot more mindful, I started making connections between issues and thoughts that I was having. I had a very, you know, very vicious inner critic, a lot of negative self-talk. I started making connections to, you know, the source of those issues. And it wasn't really until I started doing more inner child work that I really noticed, you know, the big shifts in my life.
And as you said, a lot of us have a very vicious inner critic. And I think we would never do to what we do to ourselves internally, we would never do to someone else. We would be ashamed, but yet we beat ourselves up on a regular basis. And then we wonder why we don't reach what we want to achieve, or why we're so, like you said, I also used to be, I used to call myself, when I was coaching people on relationships, I used to call myself the queen of attracting dysfunctional relationships, because something in me was resonating with them. It's a perfect dance. And I was engaging in that dance because of the inner critic and the self-talk that was so negative and so preventing us to feel worthy of the best.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, you know, the inner critic, it comes from childhood, comes from growing up with parents who put us down, call us names. You know, in my case, my father used to tell me that I should have been a girl, you know, that I was gay, things, you know, all his own insecurities. I now realize now that it's more likely because he's insecure about his own sexuality.
Yeah, it's projections. In my case, the funny thing is that I did not have such a difficult childhood, but yet certain repetition, a certain expectation of perfection created a very strong inner critic. And that's what was playing against me. To come back to the hypnosis, I know that when I talk to people, because I also listen to recordings, I went through hypnosis to go in past life regressions, and I do stuff alone at home or with people. But when I talk to people around me or even clients sometimes about hypnosis, they're so afraid. that someone is going to take control of their mind and they won't be able to block it, or they will have to do, it's like the shows. I lived in Las Vegas for 17 years. So you have those funny guys pretending to hypnotize someone and then make them do whatever they wanted. How could you explain a little bit how hypnosis works and why you cannot really have people do whatever you want with it?
Okay, well, hypnosis is a focused state of attention. If you've ever driven somewhere, gone to your destination, not remember the journey, that would be an example of hypnosis. You have been watching TV, lost track of time, and when what you were watching finished and it was time for bed, that would be an example of hypnosis. So it's kind of a flow state. When you're playing sports, many people have the experience when they're playing sports, they may sustain a small injury, a nick or a cut, and they don't notice it and they keep playing. It's not until afterwards that they, look at themselves and realize that they're bleeding. So
Wow.
It's a focused state of attention. It's not something that's done to you, something that's done with your cooperation. With like stage shows and things like that, they are selecting for the most suggestible people, and they're picking the people that are going to be most suggestible to perform on stage. And obviously, with a stage show, you've got all of that. You've got all of that atmosphere and all of that stuff. So that even the most suggestible people are going to become even more suggestible. And a lot of those people, maybe they just like attention and they want to act crazy to get attention. So it's not a form of mind control. You won't act like a chicken or anything. But we're all being bombarded with subliminal messages all the time, advertising, and these are all, these things have been studied over years to influence people on a kind of subconscious level. So whether or not you're experiencing it, you're still experiencing hypnosis every day.
And that's so true, because they know how to impact us and influence us in ways that we don't detect, in order to make us consume, in order to make us buy, in order to make us feel that if we don't have the last, I don't know, a smartphone or whatever it is, we are not enough in some way. So that falls into the category of hypnosis too, then.
Sigmund Freud's nephew, I believe, he pioneered all this kind of stuff and created all kinds of adverts for Marlboro and all kinds of stuff to influence people and influence their choices.
Yeah. So how does, first of all, are there people who are not susceptible enough to be able to enter a state of hypnosis?
Everyone's hypnotizable, but not by everyone. So, if you don't trust the therapist or the hypnotist, if you don't have any rapport with them, then they're going to have a very difficult time hypnotizing. Everyone is hypnotizable, but
so it's just a question of resonating with the person.
Yeah. There used to be a theory that about 60% of people could be hypnotized, 20% were highly suggestible, really, good hypnotic subjects, and 20% weren't hypnotizable at all.
Oh,
And a man called Milton Erickson, he's really kind of like the father
yeah,
of modern hypnotherapy, and you probably know of him as well from NLP.
yeah.
One of the people that was studied by Richard Bandler and John Grinder when they created NLP. He developed a more conversational style of hypnosis, and so he had far more success at hypnosis. Until that point, again, hypnosis was much more authoritative. People would say, like, you will close your eyes and you will do this and you will do that. Erickson, obviously, again, obviously a lot of people are not going to respond to that. They're going to be like, no, I won't. Like, so Erickson developed other methods of working with people and had more success with hypnosis, and that's more my style. My style is more permissive as opposed to authoritarian.
Okay. And that, I mean, since our audience are parents and they may be interested in working with hypnosis with teenagers, your style would be way more would work better with teenagers, because if you tell a teenager you're going to do that, they're going to go the other direction usually. So
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, yeah, Erickson developed things like frustrating a response. So, like, and yeah, like one example would be like setting people tasks. So if you have someone who maybe suffers from insomnia, telling them, when you can't sleep, I want you to get out of bed and clean the house until you feel tired, and then go back to bed. And if you aren't asleep within 5 minutes, you've got to do it again. So it's kind of using the problem, using what the person doesn't want to do as a means to get them to do what.
oh wow.
What you want them to do.
It's like reverse psychology or something.
Yeah, and yeah, emotional, yeah, like eating. Again, saying, well, you can eat as much as you want, but you have to walk to this shop 2 miles away first.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Why, I would like to our audience to understand, why does it work? How does it work? First of all, with the brain, why can we use hypnosis to heal and it works so well?
why does it work? Well, there's lots of theories. I don't think anyone's really sure, to be honest with you. One theory is that when we use hypnosis, we're accessing a hyper-learning state. Again, going back to childhood until the age of 7, it's known as the imprint period. It's when children are learning their most difficult and complex tasks, and it's been shown that in that age range, their brains are in the theta brainwave state, which is also part of the REM sleep cycle. And so by accessing that, it makes it easier to visualize things, and it also increases neuroplasticity. So yeah, that's one theory on why hypnosis is effective. as I said, by visualizing ourselves the way we want to be, we create new neural pathways in the brain. Also, particularly with anxiety, it encourages mindfulness, it encourages relaxation. And again, from kind of Erickson, I think he developed the theory of the unconscious mind, although I think that, well, Freud had, like, he called it the id. He said that it was like a cesspool of repressed nastiness. And then Carl Jung said, no, the unconscious is a good thing and it's what we want to access. I think Erickson developed that further, and he said that your unconscious is responsible for your breathing, it's responsible for keeping you alive. So it's about giving people faith in that part of them, like they have a guardian side of them that's always there, looking to protect them, keep them safe. There's so many aspects, so many ways that hypnosis can help, especially with anxiety, especially with inner child issues. Again, if you're growing up with dysfunction, you're going to learn to become hypervigilant.
Yes.
Your amygdala is going to grow larger. The thinking part of your brain isn't going to develop as much. So again, the more we relax, the more we can start to reduce that amygdala, reduce those emotional responses, and increase our capacity to think.
Yes. And I had a question and it went away. So my next question is, because you said your style of hypnosis is more conversational, but do you still use what we call induction? First of all, maybe we can define what induction is for the people who don't know. And do you still use induction in your style of hypnosis?
Usually, not always. When most people, come for a hypnotherapy session, they expect to, have their eyes closed and be listening to some nice, relaxing, soft music, and that they expect that. So yeah, usually with most people I do, but not always, not with everyone.
Okay. And because I know I'm not a hypnotherapist at all, but I bring people into meditations and visualizations to really access the wisdom that is out there and in us. And I sometimes had them, I was counting backwards to relax them more and more and more. Is it like a hypnosis, or is it part of it, or is it safe to do in meditations and visualizations?
Yeah, some people, with hypnosis, depending on where you're located, there's going to be issues. Not everyone can practice hypnotherapy. In some states in America, for example, some states you have to be a psychiatrist to practice hypnotherapy. So to get around that, people may call themselves consulting hypnotists, or they may call what they put on YouTube as a guided meditation, as opposed to hypnosis. Again, a lot of people have a fear of hypnosis, so calling it a guided meditation could be, more acceptable to them. They may be more willing to listen to that as opposed to, mind control. With I get this question a lot on my workshops, like, what's the difference?
Okay.
When I do hypnosis, I'm going to be looking to get what's known as ideomotor response. So I'm going to be looking to get people to receive signals from their unconscious mind, things to let them know that, you know, the suggestions, that the changes are taking place at an unconscious level. You know, that's not something that you would get with a kind of guided meditation.
Okay. So that's because I know I love doing guided meditations. I love conducting guided meditations, but I don't want to do something that is not in my that I don't have credentials for. So I was just curious. So we're safe there.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Yeah, hypnosis is perfectly safe. As I said, we all experience it several times during the course of a day. You know, obviously, it depends on the client. You know, there's some people that it just wouldn't be responsible to do any kind of therapy on. And you know, in those situations, you obviously need to use your judgment.
yeah. So if how would a mother, for example, if they experience if their kid has anxiety, and they how would you be able to help them? First of all, do you have teenagers, maybe, I don't know, in your clientele, and would it be a good resource for them?
Well, most of my clients tend to be adults. They tend to be kind of 35 and over. I have worked with teenagers in the past and had very good results with teenagers. Um, so yeah, I have worked with teenagers, but that's not my kind of main clientele. And yeah, so does that answer your question? What?
Yeah, if it would be a good resource. Yeah, I mean, it's something that they can think about to use to help their teenagers.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Hypnosis is a good resource for anyone, in my opinion. Like I said, with anxiety, it's particularly effective. And yeah, I mean, you know, I don't just use kind of hypnosis. So like I said, that I also use tasking, kind of CBT techniques, NLP. Um, so yeah.
Do you, when someone comes to see you,
Mm-hmm.
um, is it completely customized, or do you have some kind of a roadmap that you follow systematically and you customize the aspects of it, or do you just adapt completely?
When it's a one-to-one session, it's completely customized depending on the client. You know, I do a lot of talking therapy. Like generally, you know, there's like 45 minutes talking, and you know, really trying to get to the root of the client's problem. And then, you know, we do hypnosis. Generally, again, it depends on the client, but the hypnosis sessions could last from 30 minutes to an hour. So typically, my sessions last 90 minutes, 90 to 120 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how many sessions, let's say that someone comes with an anxiety condition where it's in their way, in their daily life, how many sessions do you typically recommend for people to attend?
Well, I recommend people take at least 3 sessions.
Okay.
You know, if it's an initial client, I sell the sessions in packs of 3. So you don't have any option but to have 3 sessions.
Yeah.
The kind of generally clients will see results within 3 sessions. Generally, they will see the changes that they're looking for within that time. Sometimes, depending on the issue, you know, people come to me with PTSD. Then, you know, I think that would probably take 6 to 9 sessions generally. And, you know, other clients with more severe issues may take longer, may take more. But yeah, you know, with hypnosis, you know, with any kind of change work, when we change one part of the system, we start to change all parts of the system.
Yes.
So, yeah, you know, someone who's coming forward to overcome anxiety, they're going to notice that they have more confidence, more self-worth, more self-love.
And I'm sure it's like with us, with tapping, for example, because the brain is so smart that we encapsulate certain things that we some kind of forget because we can't deal with it. When you start working on one issue, other things come up to the surface to be healed, and then you have to continue working with that until everything is kind of and like you said, sometimes it's like dominoes. You work on one or two and all the rest is falling by itself. But sometimes you have to address several layers of trauma, especially.
Absolutely, yeah. But yeah, you know, when people come for one-to-one therapy, I always I try and keep it solution focused, and you know, to get, you know, ask them, you know, what's your life going to look like when this is no longer an issue? You know, the miracle question.
Yeah.
What do you want to get from therapy? How will you know when therapy's being successful? Because the thing, you know, with more traditional kind of therapies is that, you know, you go and you talk and you go back week after week, and it's like peeling an onion. You know, you're just unraveling layers and layers and layers of trauma. If you do that without a goal, I don't think it's very beneficial.
Yeah, you continue forever because, I mean, there are so many life incidents that we can address. But like you said, when you have, I call it an intention. What's your intention? Then you know when you have reached your intention. It's much more measurable and able to see that you are toward the end of what you were looking for. Do people have to have homework in between sessions? Do they have to listen to a recording, let's say from one session to another, to reinforce the change that you made in the session, or they don't have to do anything at all?
I don't usually give people recordings to listen to. Sometimes, you know, I do have recordings on my YouTube channel and on my podcast, which I direct people to. But no, I don't usually generally tend to set homework like that. As I said, you know, there could be. I am a fan of giving people homework to do. So yes, like I said, it could be, you know, whatever the issue is. Like, you know, as I said, walk to the shop 2 miles away if you're, you know.
That's that's a great that's a great way to have them change. So if people want to experience your work, I know you mentioned the podcast. That's how I got to you, actually, because I listened to it and I love that you really do hypnosis sessions in your episodes, which is great, because then you can listen and re-listen and as many times as you need. What's the name of your podcast if people want to go and listen to it?
The podcast is Anxiety Hypnotherapist. Anxiety Hypnotherapist podcast.
And I'll put the link below this episode so that people can find you. Is there anything that one can do to have a hypnotherapy session more effective, like in preparation before they come?
No, just make sure that if it's online, make sure that your device is fully charged, make sure that you've got power, a stable internet connection. And yeah, that's it really. Again, it depends on what the therapy session's for. If it's to stop smoking,
yeah,
I would tell someone to throw away all their cigarettes and ashtrays and stuff before the session. So there are other things that people can do, but it depends on the issue. Always have a chat to people before booking them in for sessions.
okay.
So generally, yeah, I would again give people something to do between the chat and the session.
Great. Is there anything you would like to share with the audience regarding what you're doing or regarding hypnosis before we close?
No, not really. Just probably the biggest realization for me with regards to overcoming anxiety is that it's a natural response to danger. It's part of fight or flight response. All emotions serve a purpose, and what resists persists. The more you try and fight against any emotion or thought, the stronger it's going to become. So yeah, I don't know, just that's the final.
Great point, because especially in the self-development and spiritual milieu, sometimes people want to bypass the negative emotions, and that's a great reminder that every emotion is like a messenger. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
I want to thank you very much. So your website is anxietytherapy.org.
Anxietyhypnotherapist.org.
Anxietyhypnotherapy.org. And same thing, I will put it in the description of the episode. Thank you so much for being our guest today and shedding some light on hypnosis so that people could be more curious and not be so scared of it, because I think it's such a pity to not try it. It's an amazing resource.
Excellent. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
And for our audience, so go check Mark's website and listen to his podcast. And if you're scared of hypnosis, you will have an experience and you will see that it's totally safe. Until I see you, go and vibrate at a high level, go co-parent with the universe. I will see you in the next episode. Bye.